Welcome to Backstage with Becca B with special guest JJ Niemann. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, this Elon University grad and TikTok star made his Broadway debut in Book of Mormon, where he was a swing. He's also been in regional productions of shows like Newsies, Hairspray, Shrek, Little Women, and more. Recently, he's been a part of the cast for the world premiere of Bliss the Musical at Fifth Avenue Theater in Seattle and part of the ensemble for Ratatouille the TikTok musical. Please welcome JJ Niemann.
Hello, how's it going, Becca?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
I just have to say, I was looking at your resume last night and I was looking at your TikTok and stuff preparing for this, and I was on your TikTok for 3 hours before I knew it, I think, watching your videos, just
oh my God. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's so sweet.
They're so good and so genius, so creative. And I have a ton of questions about TikTok later on in this interview. But First of all, how are you doing? This has been a weird year.
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, you're right. It's been a weird year. I'm just happy to be back in New York now. I was home for most of this year with my family in North Carolina. So being here again, and while everything's reopening and people are getting vaccinated and their hearts are opening, and I'm seeing people on the streets and all these shows are announcing things, it's just really exciting. I'm excited for a lot of my friends who are getting, reopening dates for them to get to go back to their jobs. And it's really wonderful. So yeah, I'm currently doing really well, and I'm just happy to be here while this is happening.
And I mean, North Carolina isn't a bad place to spend quarantine. From what I've heard, it's beautiful there.
It is, and I'm lucky. I live kind of on the coast with my family, so we live in the Wrightsville Beach, Wilmington area.
Ooh.
So yeah, I live 5 minutes from the beach, and it's just mostly good weather pretty much the whole year. So it definitely was not a bad place to spend a lot of the past year.
Yeah. So what more can you ask for? You get the beach right there.
Exactly.
So have you always known that you wanted to go into theater and performing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
I think I knew that I wanted to do it the rest of my life before I really put together the idea of that I could actually make a career out of it. But I deep down always had that passion. And I was counting down the days till I was old enough to do the children's theater in Annapolis, Maryland, which was where we lived at the time. And all my older sisters all did shows. My parents ran their own theater company for a few years. And I was just always surrounded by art. And I always was I want to do that. When am I going to get to do that? And so as soon as I could, then the rest is history. And I was doing shows year round, 5-6 shows a year. And that's just my whole life has been that.
So when did you make your theater debut as a child?
I was 8 years old, and I was in Children's Theater of Annapolis. You had to be 8 years old to do shows. So as soon as I was old enough, Mama, I auditioned. I said, Mom, let's go. And I played Avery, the bratty little brother of the main character. So yeah.
So you're I'm the main character's little brother. No big deal, everyone.
Yes.
You're I'm basically the star by association.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course. What was the first show you ever saw that made you realize that you could do this professionally and that you can have a job in this professionally?
That's a good question. I mean, I think in terms of seeing shows that made me want to do theater, seeing my older sister, and I would go to her cast parties and meet the people and just be this is I really, a huge part of what kept me coming back to theater was the social aspect and the community aspect. So I mean, I would go to her cast parties and I would be I want to be with these people, doing a show. This is what I want. These are the people I want to be around. But the first show I ever saw that made me really, I mean, I think of Newsies because I saw that when I think I was a junior in high school or maybe a sophomore. And I saw that on Broadway and I was that. I was that is my dream. So yeah.
And speaking of Newsies, the dancing in that show is ridiculous, and you sing, dance, and act. So growing up, how did you work on becoming a well-rounded theater performer to be able to like to be able to go in and audition for all these roles and to go to school, because musical theater auditions are tough for college.
Oh yeah. And I will say for most of my life, I think I kind of got by on raw talent. It's not that my parents didn't support me. They absolutely did, but they wanted me to do everything. So like I was on doing soccer year. I was on swim team. I continued doing those things in high school as well, and was, student government, worship leader, like, worked at my church, like I did everything. And so because of that, which is wonderful, and I'm thankful for that. And, they wanted me to have a social life and go to camps in the summer and stuff. But, because of that, I mean, I was doing shows year round, but I wasn't really training. So I will say when I went to college, I had never taken an acting class in my life. I had taken some voice lessons, but unfortunately my voice teacher in high school kind of taught me to sing incorrectly. So we had to unlearn a lot of that because we were singing unhealthily and not sustainable. Let's just say that. And then in terms of dance, I would go to like a once a week theater dance workshop class, but it wasn't super like technique based. So like I didn't get really flexible or train intensely as a dancer until college. So like genuinely, like it's a miracle that I got it. Like I did end up working with like on like over Skype or Zoom or whatever was at the time, with a coaching agency. And that really helped because, I did a few virtual sessions with them, and that helped at least get to work on these monologues, help pick songs. That was like, they kind of helped be like, okay, these are good schools to look at. And I only ended up auditioning for 3 programs, and I got into Elon, and I was like, boom, that's it. Like I went to Elon in North Carolina, and which is an amazing program. And I think I didn't really know how amazing it was until I got there. And I literally was like, I'm in over my head, because people were just, the talent was unreal. And I remember leaving my audition day for Elon crying to my parents because I was like, I have to go here. Like, I just knew when I was there, I don't know what it was about the students or the faculty, but I was like, I have to go here. And it's only 3 hours from where we live too. So it was like the perfect balance of like away from home, but close enough.
Yeah.
And I was sick as a dog the day of my audition. So like, I was like, I'm so sick, and like, I needed to nail this audition. And somehow they were able to look past it and take a chance on me. I genuinely feel like they took a chance on me because I did not show my best self at that audition. Nailed the dance call, but the other aspects were like really shaky. So once I got there, they really helped hone my skills. So that was a very long-winded answer, but like, I didn't always have the skills knowing that I could make this as a career. And like, I genuinely was pretty rough around the edges for a lot of my life, even though I was performing full time.
I was going to say, so you're that person that like, when everyone was getting talents, you took all of my dance talent that I was supposed to get, and I got none of the dance talent. You got all of it. So like, I mean, I don't know where mine went, but I don't have any rhythm, motion, anything.
Oh my gosh, I bet that's a lie. But I do agree though that like a lot of that kind of stuff is just somewhat genetic, and it's like in your bones. Like I have I mean, neither my parents sang, dance, or act. Well, my dad did some acting when he was younger, but they are not talented in those areas at all. But but my dad's sister runs her own dance studio, and my great grandmother was like a Broadway dancer dame, like back in the day. So like, it's kind of in the genes and in the blood. And my grandma actually made my dad promise her that he would not let any of his kids go into show business, because she was like, it's bad, like do not let them go in. And like, lo and behold,
whoops, sorry, it just happens.
Yeah.
Couldn't hold him back.
Yeah.
Could not. Well, what was it like studying at Elon University, and what was the most valuable lesson and takeaway that you learned at Elon University that helped you go forward in the industry?
Ooh, that's hard. I mean, I learned so much when I was there. Genuinely, I learned like a lot of. I mean, I think the best part about going to a like BFA program like that is that you genuinely learn the ropes of the industry as well. So it's not just working on your skills. it's working on like how to kind of navigate an industry as well. And so like genuinely the connections that the school gave me was like a huge part of it. And I know that's a huge reason people go to schools like Elon and Michigan and CCM and places like that. But also like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people always ask me about like how to become a little more confident in your skills as a performer, XYZ, but like I was not confident going into school there. I was terrified. And I was like a closeted teenager, kind of still at that point, and like didn't really know who he was really figuring things out. And like I was terrified to even go to an acting class because I was like, I don't even know how to be like truthful. I don't even know how to be truthfully authentic in this moment, let alone play a character truthfully and authentically. Like I felt lost. And there was like this really nice, and it wasn't in a cutthroat way. I know some schools you hear about, they strip you down. I didn't need that. I needed some love, and it was a loving environment. And I think it gave me some of that love, but tough love, and helped me strip down my layers slowly. And it did take a while, but like, you know, getting to like kind of unlock those parts of your potential where you're like, wait, this is how you act a song. This is how you connect singing vocally. For so long, it was all detached for me, all of the disciplines. And then at some point it clicked and I was like, oh, this is how you tell a story with your voice and with acting. Like it just like, it seems so crazy that like, that's something that we should just innately know. But like, I didn't innately know and understand how to truly do that because I wasn't being authentic.
And I feel like that's important because I feel like people like confidence is hard to come by, especially in the anything in the entertainment industry. So it's kind of like a fake it till you make it situation in most cases. It's like
Fully.
fake it and then hopefully you eventually like go along and you learn from other people and you learn from your professors, from the people who are mentoring you in the industry.
Yep, exactly.
So you have a Broadway and a world premiere musical on your resume. But first, I love talking about regional credits, and you have a ton of regional credits on your resume. Yeah. So I wanted to ask, what do you think makes regional theater so special? And do you get that like community feeling from regional theater that you like longed for as a child?
Yes. Some of my best friends, like truly that I'm in group text with, that we are in contact every day. Some of those even more than my college friends. Like the friends that you make in those kinds of gigs is so beautiful, and it's a wonderful shared experience. And like, honestly, like when theater is now reopening, I guess part of me saying this is because I was in a Broadway show for 2.5 years. I want to be doing regional stuff. I want to be doing a show for a month or for 2 months. And like, you meet the most incredible humans that way. And it's really wonderful to see other areas of the country. And also it's just really wonderful getting to do a show before you get tired of it. You know what I mean? Like when you only are doing a show for 3 or 4 weeks, you don't get tired of it. And it's all of the experience is special. Like the whole thing is. And it can be very stressful putting up a show in like 11 days or like 2 weeks. Like I've done a lot of those contracts that are really stressful, but again, it's a shared experience. So yeah, I love regional theater and I want to do a lot more of it.
How do those, like, when you're doing regional theater, I'm sure there's a lot of like quick turnarounds in your schedule, and there's like, you're in the city like one week performing in like one show, and then you're going to another city performing in another show the next week. How do those quick turnarounds work? And like, how do you process like, what character am I playing at this time?
Oh, because fully.
Characters so often when you're doing theater in general, but regional theater even more so.
Totally. Well, and that prepared me for swinging on Broadway because mama, you're like wearing all the hats and like what hat am I wearing today? What wig am I wearing today? But yeah, in terms of regional theater, I mean, like, for example, I worked at Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera, and that was condensed into like 7 weeks and to do 4 productions. And so you rehearse a show for like 7 days. You do 1 rehearsal to tech the show. By the way, it's a dress rehearsal run. So your first time on stage with costumes, with quick changes, with everything is a dress rehearsal where they're like running the show. and you have about 4 hours total, and you stop if something crazy happens, but if not, and you miss your entrance, you continue your change and you make it on stage when you can. And then they're like, tomorrow's opening night, you will just make it, fix what you didn't fix yesterday. Oh, fully. And we had to do that with like Shrek. And Shrek is, I was the dragon puppeteer. Like I had the freaking dragon head. So not only was I like dancing and doing all this ensemble stuff, then I had to do like be a puppeteer, which I learned in a few days. And with a heavy, like 50-pound thing on me and running around stage with 4 actors attached to you. So it's all super choreographed. And then you're doing it on stage with set pieces, haze, and like also having to lip sync to the girl singing backstage for the dragon. So it was crazy, and there were missed entrances. Oh my God, the chaos. But it also like taught me to embrace the chaos a little bit, and like everyone was just like all over the place, a little bit. But like you're going and doing that show at rehearsing that during the day, and then going and doing Damn Yankees at night, being a baseball player, and then you're doing that like every day. So the overlap is what's really hard with a show like that.
I can imagine. Because it's like, what role am I playing right now? What show am I rehearsing for right now? Type of thing. So, do you have a favorite regional show, and do you have a role that you've played regionally that you would love to play on Broadway someday, whether the show is on Broadway currently or not?
Whew, that's a good question. I think my favorite regional show, Shrek was up there for sure. Also Hairspray. Hairspray is my favorite musical, and I got to do that at the Muni. That was also my 3rd time doing the show. So Mama, she was a pro at Hairspray by then. And so I got to do that show at the Muni in St. Louis, and that's a stunning outdoor theater. The sweat was real. Doing it in like 100-degree summer heat is crazy. In like wool sweaters. Yeah, crazy. But that definitely was a highlight. And like, I also got to do that show. It just happened that 4 of us from my college all went and did the show together. So like some of them were like my best friends and still are my best friends. And so we all kind of like, it was definitely very community building. And literally for some reason that cast was like, had some magical fairy dust, because every single person I did that show with is like famous and like has had the most amazing careers and like gone on and done Broadway shows and tours and everything. It's like really, there was something in the water with that cast. So it was just one of those really special experiences. Like getting to do it with Taylor Louderman, that was really freaking cool. Like I was just like, star.
You're like, okay, wow, I get to watch these people on stage performing with me every night. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so cool. So that definitely was a highlight. And in terms of what I would want to play, like on Broadway, I haven't gotten to do a ton of roles because a lot of the regional theaters I worked at, I was in college at the time. And so I was in the ensemble, like dancing in it. Yeah. And I was working with a lot of professionals. And then once I graduated college, I joined Mormon. So that was kind of like what I did for most of the time. But I will say like my biggest dream is just for Bliss that I was in the world premiere of in Seattle, to come to the New York stage. And because I got to like understudy one of the leads. So like that would be cool to like get to sometimes go on for leads. But I'm a lover of the ensemble. I get sad when I get an appointment for a show and like I'm like, wait, but I wouldn't be able to dance if I'm this role. Like truly, like I miss it.
You're like, it has to be a dance role. I need a dance role.
Yes. Period.
And speaking of Book of Mormon, you got Book of Mormon pretty much right after college. You were in it, and you were swinging right off the bat, right out of college, which like that says a lot about what you learned in college and like the talent and how well-rounded you were when you graduated college, because like swinging is one of the hardest jobs on Broadway, if not the hardest, in my opinion, because as you mentioned, you're playing multiple tracks. So what was your audition process like for Book of Mormon, and what was like, were you surprised when you got it? Were you shocked? What was your reaction?
Yeah, it was crazy, and it's kind of like a fun little Cinderella story to tell now, but like at the time it was fully chaotic. But so we do like this version of a showcase at Elon where we bring casting directors and agents to campus and like workshop with them versus going to New York and doing like a show. So we get to do like one-on-one audition experiences with them, and then also like do dance call, we prep all of these dance combinations and all this, do a reception, host them. So that's how I ended up signing with my agent. And also I ended up meeting an associate of Book of Mormon casting, who I guess submitted mine and like several of my classmates' info to the casting. Got an email in like probably April saying, hey, we'd love for you to submit a self-tape for Book of Mormon. This is what we need. And I, sent it to my agents and I was like, I'm going to do this. But they contacted me directly, actually. And I think I had already signed with my agents at that point. But yeah, so myself and like 6 of my classmates, we all submitted for it, all got callbacks to come to New York. And we just had to do like material from the show, a song of our own, tap dance, a scene, all those things. And so we all flew up to New York. And the callback happened to be, so we graduated on a Saturday and I packed up my apartment on Sunday, drove to the airport, and flew to New York. And then the callback was Monday morning. And so I went in and, we had to learn like a few dance combos from the show, do pretty much all the same material that we did on video, but obviously for people in person. And then I got a final callback for the next day. And so I went again the next day and did all the same stuff basically, plus an extra little swing test, they later told me, with the dance captain, because there were like 3 of us that he took into a room and taught us dance to see basically how quickly we could pick up choreography and how detail oriented we were. So that was definitely cool. And then they filmed it and had to like send it to some people to give approval. But I didn't know at the time what you know what I mean? When you're going in for an audition, you don't know if they're casting the tour or Broadway. Are you casting it for now? Are you casting it for 3 months from now?
No.
Yeah, you don't know. And it just so happened that they needed an immediate replacement because someone gave their 4 weeks notice and was like, I'm out, I'm doing another show. And so they needed to replace that person. And it was a swing. I wasn't even living in New York at the time. Like I was on like a friend's couch for like a few days, and I was going to be going and doing some more shows at the Muni, doing a few shows in Maine. I had like 3 months of stuff lined up. So yeah, I got the call later that day, actually, right after my second callback from my head of my program at Elon, being like, did you go in for this casting director? Like, oh shoot, what's the casting director's name? I can't remember at this moment. Anyway, but my head of my program called me and was like, hey, did you go in for this person? And I was like, yeah, I literally just left a callback for Book of Mormon. And she was like, okay, well, don't freak out, but like they just asked me for a reference and da 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 da. She was like, let me know if you hear anything. And so basically they had called the head of my program being like, he's 21 years old. Like, is he trustworthy? Can we trust him with a swing track and with learning 7 roles and managing that as a really young person? Yeah. And I was her assistant at school that had my program. So she was like, yeah, he's really on top of it and he organizes my life as well as his. And so that definitely helped. And it goes to show people do check for references. So be nice to everyone and show up and do the work. You know what I mean? Like, don't take anything for granted. But yeah, so then the next morning I was at another audition for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory on Broadway for an immediate replacement for that. Got cut immediately, was not right for what they were looking for. And then I left that audition and I had a voicemail from my agents like, call us, we have an update about Book of Mormon. Ooh. And I called them back and they were like, you got it. And you're going to start rehearsals at 3 p.m. today, report to the theater, and you're going to sign your contracts and start music rehearsals.
So you learned you got the role and you started rehearsals on the same day.
Yes. I literally felt like I was in like Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure. Like, you know how like in movies and TV shows, they're like, oh my gosh, you booked the role, like show up today at the theater, you start today. Like that doesn't happen on Broadway, like ever. So I was like, what the heck is going on?
10 minutes. You're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, so I have to drop out of all of the shows that I'm currently cast in. I have to ship my keys home to North Carolina so that my parents can drive 2 hours to the airport to pick up my car with my entire apartment in it. All I have is a carry-on suitcase. I also don't have anywhere to live. I need to find a place to live. My credit card got hacked, so I didn't have any money. So I was like, I don't even know. Yeah, exactly. I like was full mess mode. And yeah, thankfully found a sublet really quickly from a friend. And everything worked out. You know, they gave me a day off at some point, like a week or two later, to go home and actually get things to live in New York, get the rest of my clothes and stuff. So yeah, that was like a really crazy whirlwind, and I was thrown into it, but it was wonderful. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing.
What was the pressure like finding out you were a swing? Because like, as you said, like you have to be trustworthy to be a swing. You have to cover a ton of tracks, and you said 7 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to cover a lot of tracks, learn a lot of different learn a lot of different blocking and dance moves. It's probably like similar dancing for a lot of the tracks, but
Yeah.
it's different blocking, which is difficult to pick up and difficult to like be like, okay, where am I today?
Yeah.
Like, or where am I for the matinee versus the night show?
Yeah. And it's tricky. I mean, yeah, the trickiest part is partnering with people, traffic patterns, your quick changes are different. Yeah, there's a lot of like really intricate things that you don't think about until you're the one that has to look at the entire puzzle, and you're like, okay, so I'm this piece and then this piece and then this piece, you know? Yeah, I mean, I was definitely a little nervous, but I also knew, I was like, I can do that. I was like, I'm going to be great at this. I just knew based on my brain function. And yes, I mean, I had never even seen Book of Mormon. So the day I got hired, they let me come and see the show, because I was like,
Okay.
I've never even seen this. So, yeah, I mean, and they gave me pretty ample time to learn it, but I will say, like, I was pulling all of my skills out of the hat, because like I was, you know, learning the music, singing alone, whereas normally you learn music by singing with a cast. So I was in a room with the associate music director, and he would be like, okay, today we're doing this track. So in 4 parts, you're going to be the second from top. In 3, you're the middle. In 2, you're the top. And like, I was like, okay. And so I would like go through and just record, you know, we would sing through the entire show, and I would sight read the whole thing. Like I was using my sight reading skills. And then I was in, you know, the studios with the dance captain, and I was working on, you know, learning the dances, and I was dancing alone. So he was like, okay, you do this move at 8 and then cross to 2. And then you're going to partner with this person. Make sure you go in front of this person, but behind this person. And you're learning this entire intricate thing without anyone else there. So once you put everyone else around you, it's like a completely different experience, and it's way easier when everyone is around you, because you know exactly where you fit in, because you're like, yeah.
Kind of.
But yeah, I mean, I was definitely stressed when I found out, but it honestly, I was like excited. I love a challenge, so I was like, yeah, let's do this. Yeah.
But I feel like, how cool is it to know like that that Broadway producers are trusting you to cover 7 tracks
Yeah.
right out of college?
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, and yeah, I think at the time I was like, yeah, of course, like I'm ready. Like it was still crazy, but I was like, yeah, like it was one of those experiences that I went in for the audition, and it was just like it fit, it clicked, it was right, and I just knew, like, yeah, I mean, I didn't know I was gonna get it, because I was like, this is Broadway. Like it was my first callback. Like it was my first thing. Like, so I didn't really realize the gravity of it. But it felt right. And I just was like, yeah, this is the moment.
You're like, dream big, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And then you got it.
Yes.
So what was your Broadway debut like?
Like I feel like I was like blacked out for half of it, which I think is a common theme. Most people I talk to like don't even really remember, but I am thankful. I ended up making my Broadway debut a week before I was supposed to. So all of my family and friends that were coming into town ended up not seeing my Broadway debut. They saw me a week later. And I made it in a completely different track too. So I kind of had to recalibrate my brain, but I think that was really nice. I was glad that I kind of had a little more of a low stakes thing. I still had like 5 or 6 friends come. But Yeah, it was a whirlwind, and I think like it really was just like your heart just doesn't stop racing the whole time, because genuinely that's the first time that you get, like, I didn't have a true put in. So making my debut on stage, that's my first time with the whole cast, with the orchestra, with a mic on, with costumes and quick changes and wigs, with set pieces moving around me, with lights. I mean, genuinely, it was like getting shot out of a cannon. And I was just like, I have to trust my notes and the work that I've done, and like it's not going to be perfect. That's the beautiful thing. It's like when you're a swing, it's like you are never going to be as perfect as someone who does it every single day, because they will not ever falter really in what they do. So as someone who's a straight up perfectionist and would cry if I would mess up one thing, I mean, I wouldn't actually cry, but I would like low key like get emotional when I was like, we're not doing this. We're not doing this today, honey. But like, yeah, it taught me to like just embrace the imperfect, because people just they know how tough your job is, and they just want to support you, you know?
Yes, of course. And swings, as I said, I think swings are like that. Swings and understudies are the MVPs of Broadway shows.
The unsung heroes, yeah.
I mean, especially swings, because I feel like a lot of people don't know exactly what swings do. And it's like, it's something that I try to cover in my interview series as much as possible when I can. So, Book of Mormon is such a fan favorite show. It has a lot of dark humor. Which I didn't realize when I saw it, but I was surprised, and I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah,
Why do you think fans keep coming back to the show and seeing the show, and what do you think makes it a fan favorite show?
Those are great questions. I mean, I think there's some beauty in the irreverence of it, and the fact that like we are kind of living in a very, and it's important as heck that we are living in a PC culture, and we are learning things and finding a sensitivity to things in a really wonderful way. I think that there is something beautiful about a show that gives no you know what, and genuinely just like throws it all out there, and anyone is fair game, and anyone and everyone gets poked fun at. There's some beauty in that satire. It's full satire, and no one is safe from it. And I think like there aren't really any shows like that. And I think that there's some beauty in that. I also want to say, for some reason, it is a show, I think because of the South Park humor and just the humor in it, that it's a show that a lot of girls always bring their boyfriends to. It's always like the show that like the guys that don't like theater like. They're always like, oh my God, that was amazing. That was so funny. And like they're at the stage door, and I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Thanks, dolls. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that it genuinely appeals to a whole different audience. When you think of Broadway, you think of mostly family friendly, you think of Disney on Broadway, you think of all of those like Wicked and, you know, all the ones that you would take your family to. And Book of Mormon's like one of the only ones that's like truly mature content. That doesn't stop some people from bringing their 8-year-olds and sitting in the front row. And we would be like, this is so uncomfortable. Like, take your child out of this theater. But people don't leave. Honestly, like, people always are like, oh, do people always like leave the show? I'm like, no, like people know what they're getting into now. If it's been open for 9 years, you know, 8 years. So yeah.
What was it like stepping into that environment, stepping into a show that's been running for so long, and joining a cast of a show that's been open for that long? Because I'm sure people in the cast have been there for like multiple years. How long was the longest person in the cast there?
There were still original cast members in it. There were like 4 or 5, I want to say, that had been in it for the whole time. And I guess when I joined, it had been running for, I think, 5.5 or 6 years. And then, yeah, I think I was there for the 6-year anniversary. Anyway, so I will say hard. I will be 100% candid with you and say, Mama, it was not easy, because for all the reasons that we've said, like thinking about regional theater and regional contracts where I'm going kikiing for a few weeks with people, doing a fresh show. I'm young, everyone else is young. And it's very different. Like when I came into my dressing room, for example, those people had been in the show already for 4, 5, and 6 years respectively. So I was like really fresh in there. And I was 21 and I was young, and I was like, y'all, what are we doing? Where are we going? And I had all this energy. And I was a college graduate. Like I still was definitely in that college mindset too. And so not everyone jived with that, and that's okay. There was a lot of, yeah, I'm just gonna be candid. Like there was a lot of jaded energy in the cast. And so it definitely was hard. And the interesting thing was, and the beautiful thing is that by the time I left the show, I was like so sad to leave. And like, I was so, I loved my time there so much, but there was like a year or so in there that I was a little depressed, and I was like, I gotta go, because there was some toxic energy. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but I genuinely feel like I helped to lift a lot of spirits. And also, as people started, once you're in a show, people, you know, there, it's a rotating door. So some people come in, new people come in, and those were kind of the people that I became best friends with, were the people who joined the show like after me. And that new energy, and they were a lot closer to my age. And so it was just a moment of that. And in a show that has a lot of white men in it, and a lot of them were straight, there was some toxic male energy, a kind of a fratty mentality. I won't harp on that, but let's just say things happened, and we healed and we grew because the environment changed. What I left the building was not what I entered in, and I was not single-handedly responsible for that, but I do feel like I played a part. A few other people, we had some important conversations. That was in the midst of when everyone was dealing with workplace harassment and things like that, and finding a better and safer workplace during the whole Me Too movement. So there was a lot of wonderful change that happened. And yeah, I mean, that's full candid. I don't know if that's spilling tea, but like that was my experience there. But by the time I left the show, I was like so sad. And like everyone, I had like true friendships and bonds with like everybody in the show, which was not how I thought I would leave feeling. And I'm glad that I stuck it out long enough to see that and to have that feeling.
I was gonna say there must have been a reason that you were there for as long as you were there, because I mean you stuck around for what, 2.5 years, 2 years?
Yeah, 2.5. Yep.
So I mean there's a reason there. Like you obviously didn't hate your job. You obviously wanted to win.
And I loved doing the show. Yeah. Like it's such a great show. So yeah.
And you were like the new kid in school that taught everyone in the show new things and new ways to go about the world. You were like the freshman coming into a new high school.
And I was the youngest in the show by far for pretty much the whole time I was there. And that definitely was just its own feeling. You know, you're like everyone's little brother. So sometimes you get picked on and it's like, I don't like that because I'm at work and I don't want to feel intimidated and emotionally like vulnerable. Like I need to like protect myself at work. You shouldn't have to feel that way. So I think we all know that the Broadway that we're coming back to, that stuff will not stand. And I just know if I'm ever in an environment and I see someone getting treated some type of way, like I know what to do because I went through that.
Yes. Well, I have a last question about Book of Mormon before I get into Bliss. Is, as we mentioned, Book of Mormon has a ton of satire, dark humor type things. Was there any ever funny reaction from the audience members that like stuck out to you, or that like you all were surprised to hear on stage, or that like made you all like break character at all on stage? Because like I'm sure that happens during Book of Mormon all the time.
Like people's reactions.
Yeah, like in the audience.
I'm trying to think. Well, sometimes there will be someone who like genuinely like laughs. Is sometimes people also, that's a show that people get drunk at. People love to drink because they're like, you know, like there's a lot to laugh at. And sometimes some people, I don't know if they happen to be drunk or what, or they just are laughing at everything. But there will be like there's one specific scene in Act 2 that's like the really serious scene where everything kind of comes crumbling down and the characters are having like a very emotional moment. And like we'll be on stage. There's the Mormon Ensemble boys are all like standing on stage being berated by our mission president and this whole thing. And we're just standing there and we're supposed to be completely still and just like sad and like intimidated. And sometimes someone will just in the audience be like one person just be like, oh! And we would just like all break character in the middle of this like really emotional scene where like one of the characters is crying. And oh my God, that like when that kind of stuff happens, you're like, read the room, baby. Like, what are you laughing at? What are you laughing at? This isn't supposed to be funny.
Come
Yeah,
on,
but
what's
Book of Mormon,
funny?
like people don't often know. I mean, everything in that show is so ridiculous that like I think sometimes the people aren't able to switch their brain of like, oh, this is an emotional moment. Like, this is the one emotional moment in the show.
But how great is it that it's a show where the audience feels like they can laugh with the cast, like not at the cast, but like with the cast.
Oh yeah, and it is a show also that's so crazy and over the top and silly that like genuinely like when we break or someone messes up, like it's not a serious show. So like the audience loves seeing that and it's fun for us. Like when someone forgets a line like that, you'd be shocked how many little things like that happen so often. And not as a swing because my mind is always on point, but sometimes it's actually the people who do the show every day, they get kind of like used to it and they just don't like sometimes they're on autopilot a little bit and they're like, I know these lines. And then that's when they forget their line and it's really funny.
And theater, that's what makes live theater the best. That
Yeah.
that things change. Things change.
Yeah.
Things are never the same.
Yep.
So in 2020, shortly before all the chaos happened, you were in Bliss, the world premiere of a new musical, which you had workshopped before.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like being in the beginning stages of a musical like Bliss, and how did you get involved in it at first?
It was wonderful. I got involved in it because I got an appointment from my agent to go in for this show and no one knew what it was. And I went in and you know what? Also, not a great audition. That was a really rough audition day. And I was like, dang, I mean, I killed the dance call, but I was not feeling very well. And it was early in the morning. And I was like, that was not my best, but I hope I get a call back because I would love to show up again and be like, boom, let's hit it. So I did get a call back and I nailed it. I made sure, honey, I was like, this is it. And it was just like it just fit, it clicked. And I don't think I was their first choice. They had hired a lot of people from earlier incarnations actually. So the person who originally got my track was someone who didn't even actually audition on the day that I was there. It was someone who had done a previous installment of it, I guess, a previous reading. And then they turned it down. So I got it. So that was beautiful. And I think, everything happens for a reason. And I am so happy that I'm in it. So yeah, I was doing the workshop and I did double duty. So I was doing like, you are working like 10 to 6 every day on the show, including Mondays. So like your day off is not a day off. And then you're doing 10 to 6 and then you go and do your shows every night, which was insane. I don't know if I can ever do that again. Like that was absolutely bonkers.
You did it late, probably.
No rest, literally no physical or vocal rest. So like that was really hard. But yeah, so that was for 4 weeks and that was October 2018 that was. And then I did a reading of it where they worked on some rewrites and stuff. That was May of 2019. And then it got announced in June or July that they were doing the world premiere in Seattle at the Fifth Avenue Theater, which is a stunning theater. And also like, it was really cool because right before us was Mrs. Doubtfire and they went right to Broadway from there. So we were like, hello. So obviously like that one had set in stone plans already, but yeah, it was really dope. I mean, I just got offered it, from having worked on it before. And so I said yes. And Book of Mormon actually granted me a leave of absence. So I had the option to like go back to the show. But I was like, at that point, 2.5 years, I was like, I had lined up some other gigs in the future, which all got canceled because of COVID. But I basically had been making game plans for the future. So anyway, so I left Mormon and we rehearsed in New York for 5 weeks and then got to do our out of town in Seattle. And we're there for, I think, 5 weeks as well. And it was I mean, I can't put into words how cool it is to see a show that you're like, you present when you're doing a workshop, you present to all these producers and do, run the show and do all this in a studio with no real costumes, no real sets, a very bare bones version. And then to get to see, especially a fantasy musical, that's like a fairy tale, see it come to its gorgeous, beautiful, colorful, shiny life is like so cool. And like, I feel like it's my baby too, even though like I didn't write anything in the show, but like, I felt like it's my baby. And like when you're workshopping something, like I had the opportunity to do pre-production for it, and to also like having done the workshop, like there's choreography that myself and one of the other boys, like we worked on, and like my own choreography is in the show. Yeah, it's really cool. Like, and he would, a lot of times the choreographer was chill and trusted us to just go into a corner, and he was like, can y'all just figure out an 8 count? Like, I'll get to you guys. And we would be like, okay, well, let's figure out what we're going to do here. And we would just come up with it. And so like that kind of collaborative process I had never experienced before, and it was really dope. And the team was actually one of, I mean, I've never seen a team be so receptive and like genuinely ask us actors all the time, like, what do you think about this? Should we change this? Do you like this phrasing? And we would change the jokes, we'd change the lines. Like we were very much invested in it. And the beautiful thing was it was one of those contracts that we are, like we have a stake in the rights too for like 10 years or whatever. So like the people, those of us who did the workshop, like we are a part of like the whatever you call it, yeah, like the legalities of it, not like they're just using all of our material and we're never going to see any part of it. So I hope that it, you know, it had been eyeing a Broadway theater, and I think obviously new shows will be a little tentative to open right away versus some of the more staple shows, but I do think it, I do think it deserves to be seen, and it should be seen. And like, I hope that it gets to have its life, because there's so few completely original musicals, music, book, story, everything. There is like none of that anymore. So I am excited for that to hopefully like get its due and have its moment.
And in 2020, I was like, was 2020 last year? But in 2020, I saw an article about Bliss actually, and I was living in Los Angeles, so I was on the West Coast, and I was like, oh gosh, I really want to plan a trip to Seattle, because like I've always wanted to go to Seattle. I didn't end up planning a trip to Seattle, which I'm disappointed about. But Bliss, when I read about it, it like I was into it as soon as I read about it. For those who haven't read about it, what is Bliss about?
Well, I do want to say also, like, so many people have seen it. Like, I'm amazed. And I obviously the Fifth Avenue Theater is huge. It's like 3,000 or 4,000 seats, I think. So honestly, so many people have like on my TikTok videos and stuff been like, oh my gosh, I saw you in Bliss. And I'm like, how did so many people see the show? But it's amazing. But yeah, so it's basically like kind of a fairy tale that's a commentary on fairy tales, and it kind of takes like all the traditional things and kind of turns it on its head, and which I know is kind of like a common-ish thing, but the story is completely unique in the sense that it's basically these 4 sisters that are the main characters and are completely like shut away from the world because their mother died and their father like wants to hide them away from the world, and they basically escape one day and like secretly, and they go into the world, but they also realize that like the world isn't like nice and they like have never heard the words like fat and ugly and all these things. And so all of these sisters who are completely awesome, unique humans are challenged with society's expectation of like, this is what princesses look like. This is what happily ever afters look like. This is how you find true love and find a prince. You need this, 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 this. And they're like, what? Like, no one's ever told me that. And so then they question everything about themselves. And it kind of takes place in the kingdom of mirrors. That's a very vanity vein. So like I play one of the jesters that's like an entourage, and we're all very sleek, shiny, and there's like a prince and also like a fairy godfather that ends up is really actually the villain and kind of leads the sisters astray, but not in a good way, and tries to get them to change everything about themselves. So it's very, very family friendly, but it's really dope and honestly deals with like every topic that you would want to, and like addresses like, and honestly at times it was like, oh my gosh, like, do we need this like to be told? Because so many people know, like, you know, we're in a feminist society now, like we're so past all of this. But I was like, when you stop and think about it, no. How progressive is Disney with how it presents its happily ever afters in its stories? Not like, is not progressive. And also like so many girls like don't see themselves represented as princesses and in these fairy tales and in the happily ever afters. And they all think like, and there's nothing wrong with all of the pink and frills and the wands and the gorgeous dresses. that's beautiful. But there's also a lot of other types of what princesses can be and what that means. And so like, I think the show does a really beautiful job of showing that. And like, we would see little girls come into the show and like these like black little girls dressed up as princesses with their parents. And like, they're going to get to see themselves represented on stage. And like, you know, the curvy girls are going to get to see themselves represented on stage with like a curvy girl finding love and being the one who gets the love story, you know, like that's not shown a lot. So, oh, it makes me so excited when I like think about it and just think about all the people that it's going to touch. I know that there is like the Britney Spears musical that's gonna also is approaching a fairy tale thing that might be coming to New York too. So we'll see the battle of the fairy tales. We'll see what happens. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of what it's about. Yeah.
I mean, I heard great things about Bliss, and I would die to see it on Broadway. I would love to see it on Broadway. How would you pitch it to someone, to a Broadway producer to get it on Broadway?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, good thing I'm not a producer yet. But one day, right? One day we're gonna be doing it. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to condense all of that into like an elevator, you know? But I genuinely think it's like a fairy tale musical for everyone. And it's like turning, you know, basically questioning the traditional narrative and rewriting what a happily ever after means and rewriting the idea of what we have basically posed as a society and genuinely like challenging those kinds of societal norms in our content and fairy tales and movies and stuff is still relatively new. And so I don't know, I think it's like a beautiful, it reminds me a lot of Shrek, honestly, which is one of my favorite musicals and is so underrated. It is very much like that, where it's basically like questions and pokes fun at all of the aspects of a fairy tale story that you think is traditional, but in a really beautiful way, and kind of changes the narrative and flips it on its head.
It sounds like it makes the characters like a little more three-dimensional.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's amazing to see, because like three-dimensional characters, they rope you in. Like you're interested in them, you're invested in them if they're more three-dimensional.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So also, what is it like getting to, you kind of covered this, but what is it like getting to workshop a show and then getting to like see it take the stage for the first time? And is there like pressure with it, presenting it to an audience for the first time?
Oh my God, yes. And like when you're also in previews of a show, like it changes like every day. And I mean, specifically when we were doing the workshop, that was truly a workshop environment. Like we would come in every day with dozens of new pages. They would say, we wrote this song last night. Like they were very much just in the mode at that point. And that's the thing with a completely original musical, it can take any direction. So even when we were mounting the full production, they changed the ending. And after seeing it on stage, we realized everything in this show is so good, but the ending isn't right. And we knew when we were doing it, but yet you have to do it every night. And the directors and team and everything was like, it's too late to change this now, but we know exactly what we need to do moving forward. And honestly, I think this quarantine and everything, I'm glad the show didn't get rushed to put up, because it needed some changes and tweaks, because they learned a lot. You learn a lot when you have an audience and you learn the pacing and like, oh, we actually think this song and this moment should actually be in act 2 and switch with this. Like you learn those things when you see it with an audience, and like, that's the only way that you can learn. And that's why sometimes when a lot of shows these days, especially movie musicals, get rushed right to the stage because the money, and they're not perfect by the time they come on stage. And a show is never perfect, but when you think about like a Wicked and a Book of Mormon and the shows that are like you wouldn't change a thing about the structure of it and the humor, you know, Hamilton again, like, yeah, that took like 8 years. So like, you need to give shows time. And I hope, you know, I think that this quarantine and this time off really gave, I mean, I know our team was working on rewrites tirelessly and totally restructuring a lot of stuff. And I think that that's like really exciting to me. But yeah, it definitely was really cool to see it come to fruition and go from coming in every day with the pages scrapped, you know, and there's like songs that you're like, oh, remember that song that we did in the lab? Like, oh yeah, like now we have this, but like completely different songs.
Yeah. how many songs were added and like how much changed during the workshop stages and even during the Seattle stage?
Oh man, that's a good question. I want to say, I mean, everything had lyric changes and little phrases and things here and there, but I want to say at least 5 or 6 songs completely were either completely changed or added and swapped out. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
You're like constantly relearning the show as you're going
yeah,
through the workshop stages. That which is like that's impressive. I
yeah,
guess swinging kind of prepares you for that in a
yeah,
way because
yeah.
you're constantly like on top of things and constantly on top of like where am I today? Who am I today? What am I singing today?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And the gag is like being responsible only. And I was understudying, so I still had to learn someone else's track
Yeah.
when I was doing that show. Luckily it was kind of that track is kind of chill and doesn't do a lot versus like the ensemble. But I yeah, I mean, it was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, oh my God, all I have to worry about is what I'm doing. And I get to do the same thing every day. Like it was so nice. Like I will never undervalue swings or understudies ever again. Like everything after that is gonna feel easy, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it takes a special talent to be able to swing an understudy.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great skill to learn.
So you're kind of TikTok famous. I mean, you can admit it. You have like 600,000 followers on TikTok.
Yeah.
How when did you decide to make a TikTok account and why did you decide to make a TikTok account?
Oh, well, I will say the first TikTok I ever made was when I did Bliss. I had downloaded the app because I was like, what's this about? But I didn't really use it yet. But I was like, if I don't film like a fun little one of these fun TikTok dances, because I played a unicorn in the show too. And I was like, I had this cute outfit. I was like, I have to do a dance as a unicorn, right?
Yes.
So that was the first and only TikTok I made. And I danced to Sierra's like, rock it, don't stop it. Everybody get on the floor. Yeah, that. So that was fun. And then I didn't make another one until I was in quarantine, which actually really was only like 4 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, but that's when everything shut down. And I started using the app more, and I realized that there was a whole theater community on there. And I realized that there was so much humor. And I was like, this is amazing. And I went home to my childhood home and found all of my wigs and stuff in my closet that my sisters had gotten me over the years, because I used to make YouTube videos and I was like 12, 13, 14. And I stopped because I was like, out of fear and cyberbullying, and like the internet is scary.
It
But
is.
I had fun doing that, and props to you, honey, for putting yourself out there, because it can be
Thank you.
intimidating.
It's scary. It is. I feel like you don't like it's hard to admit, but like it takes a lot to put
It
yourself
does.
there on
It
any.
does. So when I kind of started dabbling again, I was like, should I like start making videos again? And I started really small, lip syncing to other people's sounds. Did that for a while. It was really scary actually the first time I was like releasing my voice onto TikTok, like using my original sound. I don't know why that was so nerve-wracking, but I think because people can use their sounds, I was like, not me. I was like, not me. I don't want my voice being used by a million people. But that was honestly when it started taking off. And specifically when I started doing my Broadway actors with our mics on and off videos, that was when it really took off. And I didn't set out to make that a series, but people loved that so much. And I was like, this is such a niche thing, but like actors, it's interesting for people who don't know a lot about the business. And they're like, wait, oh my gosh, I've never thought about what you guys do on stage or backstage when your mics are off. And then for a lot of us actors and anyone who does shows, it's like, oh my gosh, yes, like that's what it feels like to do a show again. And no one was getting to do shows. So it was like a reminder for everyone, like, oh my gosh, this is why I love to do theater and this aspect of it. So yeah, it made me honestly, like TikTok brought out my inner theater kid again. And I think people think I'm a lot more of a theater like nerd and aficionado than I am. I genuinely am not. And I don't know. There's a lot of musicals people will request and I'm like, I don't know her. Yeah. But I think it really helped bring out a lot of my inner theater kid and reminded me of why I love to do it in such an interesting way, like taking a step back and getting to approach it from that perspective and energy. Yeah.
What do you think TikTok gives you that like helps you express yourself in ways that like other social media platforms can't?
Oh, it's just so much more raw and authentic. Like there is not a need for things to be perfect on TikTok. And in fact, a lot of times when things are perfect and too carefully put together, it doesn't do well. And that's speaking from my own perspective and videos I've tried to make and others. And I think TikTok really values a raw and vulnerability. Sometimes it's a clickbait and just trying a grab to get views. But a lot of times we can see right through those. And so like, I think, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, the humor on there is just different. And like for a while, I wasn't even sharing any of my TikToks on Instagram because I was like, I don't want anybody on my Instagram to see this. And then I realized that once I started sharing it on Instagram, I was like, oh my God, all of these, because I thought at the time I was like, all of my mutuals and people who are in the biz with me are going to either be like, this isn't funny, or they're going to be like, why are you revealing all of our secrets? And some people have said that they're like not revealing our seat number thing and but people are loving it. And yeah, it's been really cool. And I just think Instagram and some other social media platforms all have like an energy of like, you're like
You hold back.
including me. Like I literally try to be like a model on Instagram and I'm like, for what? For who? But that's an aspect of myself. Like I love fashion and style and like photos. And but the beauty of TikTok is that it's just like a mess.
It is. And I mean, as you said, I feel like Instagram is like you put your best you put out what you do best out on Instagram and like what you feel best
Yes.
about on Instagram and what you feel most confident about out on Instagram normally.
Yep.
So, how many wigs do you own? Because you go through a lot of wigs on TikTok.
Well, it's all about the styling doll. So sometimes you can put it up in an updo, sometimes you add a little hairpiece. But yeah, I got some more for my birthday again this past year because I asked for it from my sisters. I was like, now that I'm making TikToks again, can I have some more wigs? And a lot of them, I mean, Amazon is like super cheap. So you can find really cheap wigs that are pretty good quality on Amazon. But yeah, I think I have like 10 or 11 wigs in total.
Wow. And you're probably going to get like when Broadway and everything comes back and when like there's like stage door and stuff again, I can imagine people are going to be like bringing you wigs.
Wait,
Whatever.
that would be everything. That would be everything. I will say, being back up in New York, I've gone to some things like I went to the Broadway March and just some events here and there. And I am blown away at the reach. And it's also because I'm in the theater community and that's who my videos are mostly reaching.
Yeah.
So, but like, I'm shocked by how many people are just coming up and being like, I love your videos. I've watched them. And it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I really underestimated that. Yeah.
When did your videos start becoming as popular as they are? And what was your reaction when like you went on your TikTok and you were like, wait, it has how many views?
Yeah, it was like August or September when that happened. And I think one of mine got like at that time got like 5 million views, which like crazy for me.
You're like,
That's crazy. And like my videos have been seen like as a whole by like 150 million times. Like it's crazy. Like that's blows my mind. And the thing with Instagram and apps like that is you have a really hard time reaching anybody who is not like already following you or in your circle versus TikTok. You never know who's going to get sent it. And it's just amazing. And it blows my mind every day. There's a lot of opportunities that are coming from that because like I ended up signing with a manager in LA from that and doing gigs with Target and Netflix and crazy things. And then also sometimes a composer is writing a musical or is writing a pilot of an animated movie or TV show and is like, I love your voice and I want you to sing for this. And I'm like, what? Like from this video? Like it's crazy. You never know who you're gonna reach.
and you also participated in a TikTok musical.
Yep. Uh-huh.
I mean, did your videos going viral on TikTok help you get involved in Ratatouille, the TikTok musical?
Like yes and no. Like definitely played a part because I became friends on TikTok with the arranger of Ratatouille, the TikTok musical, Dan Mertzleft, because I used his sound and he was the one who did the whole Remy, the Ratatouille chorale arrangement. That was the super, super viral sound. And so we became friends on social media because of that. And I helped kind of boost his sound with my video because I think I was one of the first ones to use it and make it like, imagining Ratatouille on Broadway in the rehearsal room. And so, yeah, we became friends on social media. And then once it got announced that it was happening, it all happened so fast. Because they decided one week that they were doing it, and the next week they were like, it was cast. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, we're just go. And I messaged him on Facebook, and I literally was like, hey, I saw this is happening. I'd love to be a part of it if you need any singers or anything. And he was like, oh my God, I would love to have you. Yes, let me connect you with the music director. So baby, ask for what you want. It's never, the worst thing you can hear is no.
Yeah.
So as long as you're not being cringy and overstepping, don't be afraid to just say, hey, I'd love to do this. Because you never know when they'll say, oh my God, yes. And then at the same time, also the choreographer, Eleanor Scott, reached out to me and slid into my DMs. She had seen my TikTok videos. She's in the TikTok community, and I've auditioned for her like 3 or 4 times in New York. She's an amazing choreographer. And she's been an associate on a lot of shows. So she just slid into my DMs on Instagram and was like, hey, I would love to have you for a project. And I was like, is it Ratatouille? And she was like, yes. And I was like, awesome, because I'm already actually in it as a singer. And so I got, separately reached out by her to dance in it. And so that's how I ended up doing both in the concert.
Wow. And you got to bring a new form of entertainment to musical theater fans, and you got to play a huge part in keeping musical theater alive during this time for fans of musical theater who miss seeing it live, because like you all took it virtual and did it virtual so well.
Yeah, it was a really wild experience. And I think like it was chaotic putting it together, and we just sent out our own vocals and videos, and like we had one Zoom rehearsal, like genuinely, like did not have any, and we had 2 days to send everything in. Like, I kid you not, we learned everything on Monday. And so I had a choreography Zoom session for 2 hours, and I had a vocal Zoom session for an hour and a half where they said, you take this solo, you sing this harmony. And I was, again, sight reading, using my skills and plunking out on my little keyboard app. And we sent in our stuff within 2 days, and it was the week of Christmas. So we had to send in everything before Christmas Eve. And because they had to have the editors do their magic. And so I was like, this is going to be crazy. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be good at all. And then I watched it and I was like, yes, it's a little rough around the edges, like a TikTok musical should be, but like, it was beautiful. And like, I cried, my family cried. We did a whole viewing party with my family, and like, it was super emotional, and it was beautiful. And I was so thankful I got to be a part of it. Yeah.
I mean, it came together so well, and it started a new type of musical. So
Yup.
It gives creators a chance to like be like, oh, I'm gonna go on TikTok and like write my own song for a musical that I want to make happen.
Correct. And it was the first kind of crowdsourced musical of its kind, with writers, and showing that literally anyone can cook, anyone can write a musical. Like, all of these writers, some of them are teenagers, some of them are students, some of them aren't even in the musical theater industry, and all collaborated writing something that is better than some of the stuff you see in New York. Like, genuinely, like, it was really dope music and very cohesive. It was really cool.
So this industry is such a tough industry, and you go into auditions are tough. There's 1,000 callbacks. You never know what's going to happen with the callbacks. How do you work on self-confidence in this industry?
Self-confidence. I really think genuinely it's from working on your skills, because a lot of times when I don't feel confident in something, it's because I haven't worked at it. It's because it's new to me, and that's okay. So a lot of times if you're like, oh my God, I could never go on for that show because I can't, well, then take some classes, take some hip hop classes, do what scares you, because that's the only way you're going to grow and get better at something. But also really understanding, and it takes time to really ingrain this in your head, but really understanding and believing, like, I have a unique voice and perspective and talents and gifts and assets to bring to this industry. And I have a unique perspective as an artist, and I have something that can't be replicated, and just trusting that. Because if you feel like you're a dime a dozen, then no one else is ever gonna like take a chance on you. But if you're like, no, I am the moment, I'm a star. And again, fake it till you make it. Like, just like embrace that confidence. Sometimes you have to fake it a little bit and be like, I'm gonna just show up and sell it. And I might forget all the dance steps, but I'm gonna like have fun. That's all you want. When I cast shows and I'm choreographing shows, like I cast people that are fun, like that I want to be in a rehearsal room with. So be that person. It's not always the most talented person in the room. I am not the most talented singer, dancer, or actor in the world, but I am the only me, and I am the best at combining those three, aspects into what I need to do, and showing up and being bringing joy. And so just do that. And the gigs that you're not right for, you won't get. And it's no tea, no shade. It's just not your gig. And then the gigs you do get feel right. And it's like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
I was gonna say, casting people, the people who cast these shows must see you come into the room and be like, yeah, he has to be in the show. He's gonna bring like so much great energy to the show, not only on stage, but like in the backstage environment, that like we need him to be part of this in some aspect.
Oh, thank you. I hope so. And I mean, and the thing is that I don't get gigs. There's so many shows that I've been in on Broadway final callbacks for, but they're like, oh, we actually need that track to tumble, or oh, that role actually has to cover this 35-year-old lead and you don't look old enough. It's not, a lot of times the factors are completely out of your hands. And it's just like, okay, work. But like the next show, will I get a call like to come in and audition for that one? Like you're playing a long game too. So a lot of times you just have to build those connections. And sometimes it's from doing a regional show with a director and choreographer that you just jive with. And then they get their first Broadway show. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to bring this dancer that I love, or this actor that I love and I worked with at a regional gig last year. Like you never know. So just be nice to everyone and be kind, and like show up and do the work, and just, enjoy it.
So you've mentioned that you've been reached out to because of some of your TikTok videos, which doesn't surprise me. But what have you been working on during quarantine that you'd like to promote or talk about?
I mean, I've been doing a lot of stuff, like a lot of things here and there that aren't really like public knowledge yet. But like I said, like getting to record some demos for people's, like a Netflix animated movie, working on some vocals for that. And I'm getting to voice a lead in a pilot of an animated show that is like a student run production, but also like I love learning those kind of skills. And I'm going to be doing a podcast musical coming out that has some really cool things, and I think will be released in June. So I'm playing a little role in that. That's kind of feels like very like a little Ratatouille moment. Like it's a similar kind of, but an original show that's very queer LGBT moment. And for the most part, what's been keeping me busy, I mean, I coach full time-ish with Broadway Collective. So I get to work with their students and their programs, working on like getting students through their pre-screens and college auditions, which has been such a joy and so dope. So I do a lot of dance coaching with them, and I coach pretty much year round, but I also do all my own. So if anyone out there is watching this and wants to do a booking, a meet and greet, a Q&A, dance coaching, I teach tons of dance master classes, and I post about them periodically on my story whenever I'm doing them with different organizations. So I do tons of pop-up classes and stuff like that, and I'm always available to book. So that's honestly kept me really happy, getting to connect with other artists around the country and around the world, like virtually through those platforms.
And you get to watch other people, you get to teach other people and watch them succeed at what they're doing.
And like get into their dream schools. Like, oh my God, that's the coolest feeling. Yeah.
Do they like come to you with like stories of like success stories that happen from week to week?
Oh yeah. Or they'll be like, oh, like I didn't hear from this school. Like, oh, I heard from this one. Like, I'm like, I love being able to like cheerlead them and like write their recommendation letters for Elon or for other colleges. Like that's some really cool moments, and there's so much talent out there, and it's cool to help kind of educate the next generation of students. Like I'm like, I could be auditioning for you one day. Like you could be the person who's freaking choreographing a Broadway show, like it's amazing. It's amazing.
So before I ask my last question, where can people follow you on social media to book to find out where they can book you for master classes, etc., and keep up with
Yeah.
what you're doing?
So you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at JJ Niemann. I deleted my Twitter because that place is toxic and I couldn't. I couldn't. But so yeah, I have those, and then my website is jjniemann.com, and there's links in all of my like little link trees and stuff. And also on my website there are links to book me either through Broadway Plus or Artists and Beyond, and there's also a contact form. My DMs are always open if anyone wants to collab on something or wants to reach out asking about something. I'm always open and willing to chat about things.
Perfect. And I'll put all the links in the lower thirds and the description of the video. And my last question, which is more deep than I intended it to be at first when I typed it out, is what are you most looking forward to when live theater does come back?
Woo! So yeah, as you know, it's been a little bit tumultuous. There's been a lot of drama and controversy around Broadway and the Broadway community. And I do want to emphasize to people out there, and something I am trying to figure out how to word and how to say to my followers in a concise way, because I feel a little bit responsible having a platform where so many people, so many young people follow me and are like, I dream of Broadway. You're living my dream. You know, I want to go into this business. How do I make it in performing arts? Your videos have inspired me to pursue it. Like, I feel a little responsibility to be real with people. And the thing is that Broadway is a wonderful thing, but it is a commercial entity. And most of my favorite theatrical experiences were not on Broadway. And a lot of the most creative and inventive art and the things that take risks and push the boundaries and push the envelopes are either off Broadway or they're regional. And you can find good art and opportunities anywhere you go. Yes, Broadway, of course, probably pays the most, but that is not necessarily what it's about. And as artists, that's not why we go into the industry anyway. We don't go in to become rich. Like, if you do that, you go into TV and film or the music industry. Like, the theater industry is not the most lucrative and it's not stable. So do it because you love it. Do it because you want it to change the world and impact things. Broadway is undergoing a lot of controversy and a lot of changes because we want it to be better. We want our union to represent us better. So I want, when things come back, I want them to listen. I want them to not, I just want, honestly, actors and artists to have a little bit more of a say and a little bit more power. I want everyone to walk into any workplace and rehearsal room and feel like it is an equitable place, that they feel represented, not just in the cast, like they are puppets on a string being that token representation, but they can look behind the table and be like, oh, I have an ally. Like, there's a queer person behind, there's maybe a trans person, a non-binary person, there's a Black person or an Indigenous person of color, like someone that they feel like the representation is important, because it's important for you to not feel alone. And even in rehearsal rooms like Bliss and like shows I've been in, there have been opportunities where like conversations will come up and it's like so uncomfortable, because it's like, can we be honest? Like, we need to be able to say like, this is wrong, or like this line you wrote for this character is wrong. And the only way we can do that is if we are creating safe spaces for our people of color, for queer people, for everyone of every background, and disabled people as well, like finding ways to be representative in a not tokenization, like tokenized way. So that's my hope. I just hope for a better workplace and a safer workplace, and for our union to protect us. And honestly, I just want, more than anything, for New York Broadway producers to take risks on new shows. I think there is a place for everything, and there is a place for the beautiful Disney musicals and all of the above and the movie musicals, but I want some new stories. I want people who have marginalized voices to be represented, and I want us to push the boundaries a little bit more, like write some new stuff, you know, like take chances on new things and things that are scary that you don't know are going to be a cash grab money making machine, but take a chance on it anyway, because that's how you get the Hades Towns. Like, Hades Town almost didn't even come to New York. And like, take a chance on those musicals and the Sixes and the Hamiltons and the ones that are like writing and taking chances on new things. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings about it.
I totally agree with everything you just said. And I think that regional theater will be even more appreciated when live theater does come back, like as a whole.
Yes.
which
I hope
I'm
so.
excited for in general too, because like I feel like people are like, well, regional theater isn't Broadway. Well, I mean, yeah, their regional theater is still theater.
Yes, and sometimes it's better. Like sometimes it's more fun.
Well,
And like there's only so many Broadway theaters and Broadway shows, and a lot of them run for years and years and years. So like regional theater and tours and off Broadway and all those opportunities are how a lot of like new things get spurred and like the newness comes. And again, most of our favorite theatrical experiences are in those regional gigs because it's just there's a magic to it there too.
for sure, for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me today on my show.
Of course, you had amazing questions. This is like the most I've talked about kind of this industry with someone in so long. So like it was really refreshing, and I probably like talked your ear off. So feel free to edit some of
No,
it.
I loved everything you said. And
Thank you.
I love giving people the chance to talk about theater when like it's been virtually like it's been virtual, but it's been like pretty non-existent live in the past years. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much for asking such wonderful and insightful questions.
thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!